Let's do this.
Yes.
So, I was really excited because I wanted to get the Colston 4 on my radio, our radio show. I was told that 3 of them don't really talk, so they didn't really take part in media, but agreed to come onto our show. So I'm thinking, yay, we're the first ones that's gonna have all 4. And then I get a phone call from the lady in front of me who says 2 of them have got work issues, so they're not gonna come. And Sage, what can I say? Bunjy says that's a Joe Peng thing to do. But I hear you're in the Bell, drinking pints when you should be here.
He's getting in an Uber.
He's coming?
Yeah, he's going to try and make it for the end of the show.
You better come, because if you don't, Sage, I'm going to slander your name for the next month on this show. Anyway, all that to the side.
You didn't deny that it was a bit like you, Joe.
Definitely.
It was definitely.
And based on what we're going to talk about, I wouldn't expect anything different from Sage, to be honest.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. Anyway, who have I got in front of me?
Rhian.
Tell me who Rhian is.
Which part do you want to know?
All parts.
Easy now, my boyfriend's listening.
Okay, sorry boyfriend. Sorry boyfriend. I want to know who you are, what you stand for.
Well, I'm one of the rope bringers of for the
you
toppling.
actually brought the rope.
That's my rope, yeah. So I work generally in like festivals, events, a bit of circus, and some of my roles are involve rigging. So mostly rigging of lights, sometimes rigging of circus equipment. And so I can tie knots, I've got rope. And so I was the perfect tool for that moment.
Because that was going to be one of my questions. Was this designed or was it organic?
It's a little bit of both. Obviously there had to be some intention for me to have a rope in my bag in the first place. But I think the thing that everybody struggles to believe is the fact that I didn't know Milo was going to have a rope, and Milo didn't know I was going to have a rope.
So you both had ropes?
We both had ropes.
Naughty.
So yeah, when we turned up, I met Milo at the back of the crowd, and he was like, "I've got a rope in my bag." So do I. So at that point, the march starts off down the street. We sort of peeled off towards the statue, and it's all of this is just poetry, because it would have been such a different moment had the march just continued down the road, ignored the statue, just went about its merry way.
So you were in front of the march?
I was sort of in the middle of it.
So who led it that way?
Well, it went down that road anyway. That was the route past the statue. But then by the time I got to the statue, there was a big group all around it. It's covered up in this cloth. People are hurling eggs at it. Big up to the people that went out and bought eggs that morning.
Free range, I hope.
And yeah, we got to the statue, and I mean, I feel like I've told this story a million times, but we get there, and one of the like solidifying things was seeing this conversation happen in front of me between a white man and a black man, and the white man's trying to say to take the cover off and be like, we got to take the shroud off of him. We got to look at him. And the black guy was just basically saying, please don't make me look that man in the eyes today. And he just like this like expression of such pain on his face was like a little bit of a triggering moment. Obviously I had the intention all the way up to that point, but I was like, okay, we're getting the ropes out of the bag now.
So when did you have that realization, or when did that thought process kick in?
What, the idea to bring the rope?
Yeah.
Well,
not just the rope, the idea to take that piece down.
I mean, I believe it's been an idea that's been floating around
forever,
Bristol for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And so we were having quite a lot of conversations in the lead up to it about Colston and who he was, and you know how awful it is that he's still venerated in such a big way in Bristol and still so celebrated when he's a slave trader. You know, it's like it doesn't make any sense in Bristol. And so it wasn't. I can't claim that it was my idea. Definitely wasn't my idea. But
officer.
Yeah, it's all right. We're innocent. No criminals over here. Yeah, so we were talking about it a lot before, and I think I just ran with the idea. You know, you've got to remember that it happened in a point when everyone's so locked in, had no work, all of my purpose had been taken away. You got people like Rishi Sunak trying to say that the arts aren't viable, go retrain, go do something else. And also, you know, at that point, then the murder of George Floyd hits and sort of reverberates around the world.
Around the world, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that really, in such a time, you know, as much as COVID did a lot of bad things in terms of, you know, taking so many freedoms away and all the work and all the loss, you know, it also gave us a chance to sit down and think and do things like read, you know.
Yeah,
the chance
educate
to,
and reflect.
Exactly.
And family, I always say to Bunjy's like I won't say a fresh father now, but he went to his son's first Christmas show
Oh.
the other day. Big up, Bruce. And I always say that how busy they Blak are and how intense my brother is, he would have missed out on so much because of how intense he is when it comes to his music. His music is everything, and has been known to push family to the side. But COVID and that forced lockdown thing allowed him to have that time to focus on.
Yeah.
And if you see him and his son now, they're just like,
Yeah,
Bonnie
true.
and Clyde is so solid and tight as a joke.
Yeah, it was a good time for hunkering down, getting like, you know, really reevaluating what's important,
Yeah.
I think.
100%.
And that's like, that was kind of part of it. And also reading this book, Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo Lodge.
Great book.
Thank you so much to her. She sent me a bunch of flowers actually during the trial, saying in solidarity.
So when you read,
an honour.
obviously white, young female, where did you get that thing where you can read these kind of books that are challenging pretty much systematic, almost DNA-driven racism aimed at, when you look in the mirror, the colour of your skin?
Well, it's, you know, obviously it's, some parts are confronting. I think, so I come from Norfolk, which is like 97% white population.
Hey.
It's like I did not grow up in a diverse neighbourhood.
I got family there.
Way. Yeah.
Yeah, being there many
You got
times.
family everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's a nice place, you know. I'm not
So rural then.
very rural.
Yeah.
Bit of a backwater. Has got some, you know, quite a lot of unchallenged racism.
That's even more power to you then, that you come through that alone. I've been there, so I know a little.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a bit stuck in its ways.
Yeah,
It's way out there. There's no motorway that leads over there. You only go into Norfolk if you go into Norfolk. You never pass it through. And so, you know, I've always thought I'm not racist. You know, I felt like I understood racism and that I'm not racist. But then, sort of, you know, becoming aware more of like what white privilege really means, and like, you know, the systemic racism that very much exists in this country, and just the legacy of empire that we have, you know. And it was interesting because in the trial, the prosecutor was obviously, you know, doing his job and trying to be a prosecutor, but kept trying to say that, you know, what does the statue of Colston have to do with George Floyd dying in Minneapolis? It's like, how can't you make that link? You know, without people like Colston, the majority of African descent people would not be in America in the first place. And so I think, you know, challenging white supremacy is kind of a duty of people of white skin, I think. With anybody, you know, any right-thinking person, I believe.
I'm glad you think like that, but I'm from a Romani Gypsy family.
Yeah.
My mum got 5 black children. I am fully aware of that thing where almost it's like if you're born in this country, you are born with elements of racism in you. So without self-education, without self-challenge, you are definitely going to be thinking and acting in certain ways based on certain scenarios, whichever scenarios that might trigger your thing.
Absolutely, like deeply embedded, like preconceptions.
Yeah,
of
and this
things
is
that you don't even realise.
this is black skinned people as well.
Yeah, everybody.
This isn't just a
Everybody,
white thing.
yeah.
This is,
For real.
I mean, they say black people can't be racist. I'm not going to touch on that one. But born in this country, for instance, I hear people on a regular challenge the influx of Somalians. Now, these people that are doing this or saying these things are black. It's like they've forgotten the Windrush and what our parents and what our grandparents went through to give us the lives that we have.
Yeah.
So to now start echoing what you can see on YouTube, like
No blacks, no dogs, no
dogs,
Irish.
but if
all
you go
that,
you go in, you can see here what people are saying.
Yeah, no.
These young black males in my football changing rooms are now almost echoing the same
what was
word
put on
for
them,
word
put on them.
what white people were saying when our granddads came over from the Windrush, and I just find it ridiculous. So when I kind of analyse that, it is that thing what I'm talking about. You're born in this country, take away white privilege, we're born privileged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
For real.
when you got people coming over challenging that privilege, I mean, half the jobs that they say, oh, you're taking over our jobs, they won't do the jobs anyway. So you're chatting straight nonsense and stop it, because it's not very nice. I've had
And also, if someone coming over speaking English as their second language is managing to take your jobs, you're probably not doing the right thing. You know, it's a stupid line of defense.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I was going to make this like a real freestyle thing, but I think this is like, it deserves so much. And I've had lots of people, when I've said to them that the interview, I've had lots of questions given to me. So I've picked a few.
Interesting.
Right? And I just want you to answer them as best as you can. I was hoping for your full team, but all the weight turns on you. So let's start with the first one. Do you think you've made a martyr out of Colston? When I say a martyr, no one can talk about the Colston 4 or the statue toppling without the rebirth of
That's interesting.
Colston.
I'm going to refer to my friend Lawrence who I'm sure you
My brother.
probably
Yeah.
know.
I grew up with Lawrence.
Yeah. So Lawrence was actually saying to me the other day that, you know, he used to hate the name Colston, couldn't bear to hear it, like didn't want to hear it, wanted to eradicate it from the earth. But since the toppling, he thinks it's got a new ring to it, because now when you hear the name Colston, you think slaver, whereas before, when you heard the name Colston, you might think philanthropist, you know, a giver to the city, wise and virtuous hero.
Yeah, the hospitals, the schools,
Yeah.
everybody brought.
But now he says, I think, you know, it's got a better tone, because suddenly everybody knows who Colston is and what he did, what he really did, you know, the full scope of his
the
history and who
360
he was.
of the man.
So
So you don't think you've immortalised him then?
maybe we have, but in a better way, you know. At least we've illuminated the truth around him. There were so many lies and myths around that man. I feel like we've picked apart a little bit of that and like shone a light in places people don't want lights to shine.
The great thing is he's not looking over Bristol like the Holy
He's
One
not
looking over
us.
Rio, you know what I mean? So
There's very few people that deserve to be on a pedestal.
Exactly.
He is very far down the line.
Right, so I hope that one worked for you. A lot of people are saying, learn from history, don't erase it.
Absolutely.
What's your views on that?
I mean, I don't think you can erase history. Like I said, you know, I think more people are aware of the facts about who Colston was than they were when his statue was standing there. It was actually really nice the day after the protest. I went back down to the plinth where the bit of the stone that fell off was still on the floor.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see so many people coming to look at the absence of a thing. You know?
Yeah.
So I had never seen anybody stand and look at that statue.
The spot.
Ever.
Yeah.
And now people come in with their children, you know, bringing them up, having a look at the absence of a statue.
Like a Banksy
and
painting.
talking about it and like explaining to their kids like who he was. And actually, I've got to mention, so my friend Phoebe was telling me about, big up to the Magic Carpet Massive, by the way, my campsite crew.
Magic carpet!
Phoebe was talking to her boss, and her boss had been talking to his little 6-year-old daughter called Iris, and was explaining, you know, you shouldn't really pull down statues, but, you know, he was a bad man. And little Iris said, well, you know, you've got to try not to do the thing. but sometimes you just have to do the thing.
Wise.
There you go. Some big up
For
Phoebe and the
years.
fam. What? So, the aftermath. Social media. The
Yeah.
abuse and the praise. How have you dealt with that? Because I spent a little time yesterday, because unlike Bunjy, I like to prepare myself. So I kind of looked at... I wanted to read some of the nonsense, because I know it was there.
Oh yeah, it's out there.
Definitely. How has that added up to the praise? And how have you personally dealt with that?
So, I mean, obviously, I felt like we've received so much support and praise and love and solidarity throughout all of this, which has been amazing. But I'm also aware that sometimes you exist in a bubble, and so you have to reach outside of your bubble and find out what everybody else is thinking. And so sometimes we have a look on Save Our Statues, which is a Twitter page obviously aimed at saving statues.
Yeah.
Statues weren't really the issue. It's way broader than that.
Yeah.
So you see all sorts of comments and stuff on there, and mostly I think I can just laugh at them. I saw one comment saying Blondie looks like she'd kill her own mother to get some attention. That was a nice one.
That's right. We'll have
Cheers,
that
mate.
one.
Love you. But a lot of it is, this sort of rhetoric about erasing history, which I think is a bit ridiculous, and woke, the war on woke.
What's woke?
What is woke? So I actually did a bit of research around the word woke.
I woke up.
Yeah. Obviously, so woke was actually added to the dictionary in 2017, and it means...
How's it spelled?
W-O-K-E.
So as in woke.
Woke, as in I woke up.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
And yeah, so it's added to the dictionary, and it literally means to be aware or have an awareness of social injustice and cultural issues.
So to wake up.
Yeah, exactly. And so that started in the 1940s, sort of through to the 1970s, mainly with like the African American civil rights movement. It was like "Get woke," that was like the slogan. And then it sort of came up again in 2015 when a young lad called Michael Brown Jr. was really sadly shot by a police officer in America somewhere. And that was like part of the rise of the BLM movement. That was kind of one of the events that triggered that. Yeah. And then woke started being used again, like a little, like more colloquially again, positively by the BLM movement. But since then, it's been stolen by right-wing narratives to essentially demonize mostly young people that dare to have an awareness of things that are going on in the world and try and stand up and make the world a better place. So I keep saying, like, what?
So how are they using it?
It's like, well, it's just like wokeism. That can't let these like mostly woke white middle class hippies. Yeah, it's that I can't even repeat it because so much of it makes no sense. It's hard to remember exact things. But yeah, their whole line is like saving statues, defending. It's a very like nationalist kind of
because
rhetoric.
You've given everyone permission now to just go around pulling statues down, haven't you?
Obviously, yeah, signed it. No,
obviously not. Yeah.
And I find it amazing that quite a lot of MPs and general members of the Conservative Party have
Dave Harvey's favourite party, can I say?
No.
So many of them are forgetting the history of protests. I mean, like, you can't just go around damaging things. It's a green light for vandalism. Vandalising things in terms of protest, not a new thing by any means. I as a woman wouldn't have the right to vote unless women had gone around smashing stuff.
Poll tax back in the day.
Exactly.
London got smashed up by 1 million people. Or however many. Not far from it, I was there. Oops.
Exactly. So people have been doing this for decades, way more than decades, probably thousands of years, whenever you want to
Tribal
stand up
thing,
for
if
something.
people aren't listening,
that's it.
the mass
Flips
can,
and tables.
this is how easy the mass can run the show, if they so wished.
And the fact that a jury sat and listened to, 10 days of evidence, and decided that our actions were proportionate in terms of protest and our right to, freedom of expression and preventing a crime, is testament to the fact that, in this case, it was okay.
I mean, the powers that be must be like devastated, because the statue was stood for God knows how long. Bristol love it as Bristol, and you have pulled it down, and you did throw it in the flipping river.
Yeah.
But I can remember being a kid, my dad living on 128B City Road, the Malcolm X, literally, you could throw a stone and you're in there. Go in, and I don't want to say, but maybe Rass's dad and loads of the community there, they were chatting about this 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were cussing out the building because nothing was being done. And this was the elders then. The majority of them are not even alive now,
Yeah.
I would say. And they brought that up then. They wanted it smashed down.
That's the thing.
And-
Like, standing on the shoulders of giants
Yeah,
of
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
many
yeah,
people
yeah.
have been
So-
campaigning for so long.
So that was from when I was a kid. And I had just a little tape, and it was very passionate. And I can remember dad, because dad, he bimbled over there and we bimbled back. And
Right.
I was like, whoa.
Time's flying, so I'm going to
Yeah,
fly
yeah.
through these quickly.
Go on
Have any of you lost your jobs
then.
since then?
I'm a freelance. We're all freelancers, actually.
Okay.
They're all the boys are carpenters, basically.
So, all
Oh, I need one of those.
Families.
Yeah. Anyone who need any carpenters?
Have you had
Yes,
any like real
please.
close backlash?
Any what? Sorry.
Close, like family knit. Like, is there people like
Here we
not
go.
speaking to you anymore from your family?
Nah.
Are they all
Oh,
proud
here
of
he
you?
is.
Are they
He's
all
got
proud
out
of
the
you?
bell.
He's still got a pint in his hand.
A few months ago, Bunjy had some interviewees coming on, and it's become a joke that because his ones never turn up, and this one did turn up. Sage, you've just taken the record because his was here about 10-2,
Yeah, 10-2.
53.
Sage is number one.
7
You've
minutes
moved
to-
up the leaderboard.
Well, I was here 22. It's just I was ringing the doorbell. No one was answering.
Oh, that's a good comeback.
So
That's a good comeback.
I tried to get here as soon as
All
possible.
right, so I'm going to ask you this one then. What do you think about Bristol? So, are you aware that Bristol was offered a slave museum
Yeah.
and we refused it?
Yeah.
Views.
Well, I think it's similar to you look at currently the leader of our country, Boris Johnson, in the first month of being not when he was mayor of London, he tried to get rid of Black History Month. And I think this is just a thing that's going on with.
Did he?
Yeah.
You can look this up.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this
yeah.
is things that
Damn.
are going
Yeah.
on with people currently who are making all decisions. We don't care about racial equality. We still have leaders who are racist, and I think that's where it's at, is the reason it's refused. A lot of the reasons these things are happening is people aren't being listened to, and this goes from the very top, and it's a shame to say that.
I mean, what a powerful thing for Bristol to have.
Yeah, for real.
Liverpool. I think Liverpool have it.
I don't actually know about that. Bristol refused
We
it.
refused it, yeah.
When was that?
This was a few years back.
Uh,
Put no time
Who
on it.
refused it?
Bristol City Council.
Yeah.
They refused. We could have had the slave museum. Would have probably been down by Shed somewhere, I'm sure.
It's interesting. So I was speaking to David Lammy on LBC, and he was saying that in the it was the bicentenary of the abolition, that everywhere else was quite keen to get involved and do various events, and Bristol was a little bit more apprehensive.
Yeah.
It's interesting,
Standard.
and I wonder, whether that has anything to do with the merchant venturers.
Should the Queen
don't
apologise?
yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Well, the Pope's apologised for
Yeah, come on,
the
Queenie.
Catholic Church. Queen! I'll give up my 100-year birthday card for an apology.
And I think
Thank you.
As a party, she's getting on now, Queenie, isn't she?
Someone from their regime.
Yeah, but as a parting gift, that
Yeah.
she could lead the way on that.
And it would mean so much.
It would.
Especially with the racism.
And we're going to run out of time. Professor and historian David Yoga.
Full of sugar.
See what I'm talking about, people. Was called to testify. What was his role in the trial, and what did he actually say? Because obviously there was no cameras in there. We didn't know.
Well, he was to educate. I think this is the thing I think everyone needs to listen to today, is especially like me being a white male, my main thing has been listening. I think this is something more people need to do, is start listening to the people who've actually experienced this stuff and get a better understanding of stuff, like racial inequality. And what David Olashoga's role was to educate the jury on the actual true horrific what happened in the slave trade. Most people think of the lynchings, but that's actually one of the like less.
That was the obvious least.
It was the least worst thing. Like
Yeah.
there was people being nailed to the floor and burnt alive in front of other people and stuff. Yeah, children
Hobbled.
being branded in the face,
Yeah.
and it's like when you go into like all the actual horrific stuff, the rape rooms in slave sort
Makes me
of
shudder.
imprisonment camps and stuff. It's just people don't. I think a lot of us, especially, just need to start listening and start educating ourselves on how bad it still is. Like, especially in Bristol, like I feel like it's quite sheltered. I felt like we lived in a multicultural place. I thought when I was growing up here, the racial inequality wasn't a thing, or at least not to the extent that I now realise it still is. We're like still far, far from equality across the board, and it's a shame. But I think that's what Dave Olashoga managed to put quite well. With
Yes, Dave, I'm coming to get you on the show. So
Yeah, get
I'll be
him in.
asking for some digits from these two people for you. Last question, and this one's close to home, and something that has really annoyed me, but I feel as an interviewee, I will keep my thoughts to myself. One of my associates put a post up saying, and I don't know if you've read it, if you were black, would you have gone free? Blah, blah, blah. And then someone says, I think your timing's off. We should allow ourselves to embrace the actual beauty thing.
Yeah.
How do you feel about, because I know you've read the negatives, you have to get a full, I think, to kind of enjoy what you've done.
Yeah.
Because there is no yin and yang, law of attraction, blah. How do you feel about black people saying, I'm going to say stupid stuff like stealing black people's experiences because you didn't?
I would argue it's not this thing wasn't stealing, but it was like, I'd argue that if it was a bunch of black people pulling down that statue, they would have been demonized. And there's a thing coming into Bristol that was mentioned in the trial that says, as a black person, I'd like white people to do more. And I think one of the things we need to start understanding, especially this going back to listening, is for me personally, is I want to hear more black people talking, but I want to see more white people acting instead of the other way around, where you've got a lot of people trying to take the limelight. And I wouldn't argue with what he's saying. I'm not here to create beef amongst people. I just think, for me, the reason that it was really good that white people were doing that was because black people would have been demonized, and that's a shame, but I feel that's what would have happened, and it would have taken away the ability to actually start educating some white people on this, instead of them just jumping and trying to pull the race card and be racist or whatever and be like, okay, well, they're just a bunch of thugs. And I hate to say it that way, but we still live in this racist society where they will be seen like that, and I think we've got a long way to come. But for me personally, I think it was actually quite a good thing, and this has been affirmed by a lot of like my friends who are black and of color and stuff. Is like they personally believe it was a great thing, because it showed that this isn't white guilt, this is white solidarity. These are people who've been around and like educated themselves. About talking personally, like I grew up in St. Paul's, like opposite Star and Garter. I had Ken giving us like birthday presents and Christmas presents because my dad was a mate with his. Like that's how far I go back. Yeah. And like I see like dub and reggae and sound system culture is my culture, so like, I want to fight for equal rights for everyone.
Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful thing. That is. Malcolm X, just to kind of, because we are going to end, but I have to get you back because obviously you turned up late. And Malcolm X was sat down in his office, and a white young lady's turned up and asked how she can help, and he point blank refused and told her, "You can't," based on the colour of her skin. But after his experience at Mecca, when he came back and apologised and took himself away from Farrakhan and all those negative things around him, the one thing that he never got to do, that he had to take to his grave, was meet this woman again and apologise to her. Because he's obviously realised that this has to be done together. There is no, when it comes to struggle and fight, it has to be done together. So I say to all my black brothers and sisters out there, it is time for us to kind of man up and stand up and not wait for things to be done almost for us and then attack the beautiful people that do these things for us. As long as we're fighting and flying a flag and representing, I'm from here, I'm white, nothing ain't changing. So that beautiful thing about the cliche almost about becoming humans and a human race. Once we get to that and understand that, then we take on each other's struggles, don't we? So on that one, thank you for what you did. Historical. I wish that I had the confidence, the awareness, the need. I mean, I could stand there and tell you about all my Black history things, what I've done, but I didn't have the need to go and rip down Colston's statue. You did. So I take my hat off to you. It was a beautiful thing. Long may your names live in the history of Bristol. And we clap. Absolutely. I can't wait to get all four of you. I need to have all four of you.
I know.
So, I mean,
tell them.
Can you make that happen?
Yeah.
And we'll do a proper, where we'll have 10 minutes, Bunjy will play 10 minutes, because that was my dream. 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll
be back.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Sue FM, you heard it, they're coming back. Boom.
103.7 FM, Bristol, worldwide. Give us a signal if you're lost.